Before today's episode, I have a special announcement that I'm so excited to share with you. If you are currently expecting twins, triplets, or more, or you know anyone else who is, then you are going to love this. Most often than not, getting the news that you're carrying more than one baby can come as a complete and utter shock. Add to that the increased health risks and monitoring, and it's no surprise that many expectant mothers feel overwhelmed, exhausted, and stressed even before the babies arrive. And the truth is that most expectant parents do not fully prepare for the challenges that come with raising more than one tiny human at a time. So I'm putting together a 3-part workshop on how to beat overwhelm and prepare for raising multiples. It's completely free, and if you can't attend live, you will have access to the recordings. You can get all the details at my website, fiercekindmama.com. And if you know anyone else who might benefit from this training, please feel free to share the details with them. I can't wait to see you there. Welcome to the Fierce Kind Mama of Multiples podcast. This podcast is for anyone expecting or currently raising multiples, twins, triplets, or more. I speak to inspiring parents of multiples who have healed from unexpected pregnancies and birthing experiences and who candidly share the highs and lows of raising multiples. I also speak to the professionals that work with multiple birth families. Together, we cover the practicalities of raising more than one baby at a time, as well as enhancing the emotional well-being of caregivers and children alike. Come join us as we laugh, cry, and share our personal and professional wisdom on all things multiples. I am your host, Dr. Christina Kvetsa, and I am a fierce kind mama of multiples. Welcome to today's episode. I've decided to change the pace a little bit and do something different and do a solo episode. I was speaking to someone who is doing my coaching program, and their feedback got me thinking about emotional well-being during pregnancy with multiples. I think this is such an important issue, and I may be a bit biased because my professional background is in the mental health field. But one thing that I noticed and certainly experienced myself during my twin pregnancy is that there isn't a lot of focus on the mother's emotional well-being. At the time the expectant mother is told that she's having multiples, there may be a range of emotions she, or if she has a partner, the partner may also be experiencing. Not all, of course, but many parents of multiples I speak to report that they're surprised by the news, and it wasn't something that they were expecting to hear. And with that can come a range of emotions. They may be excited, anxious, worried, scared, shocked, and overwhelmed. Now, you're probably listening to this episode because you're either an expectant or a current parent of multiples. And I'd love for you to take a moment to reflect back on when you found out the news that you were having multiples, and all the emotions that you may have been feeling and the thoughts that were running in your mind. Now think about the person delivering the news and how they checked in with you. Did they ask you how you were feeling and whether you needed any support? I know that in my own case, the sonographer was lovely and kind, and she congratulated me on the news and acted very positively about the results. But she probably wasn't qualified to deal with any negative emotions or thoughts that I may have been feeling. And she certainly didn't ask me how I was feeling. I know I've shared on this podcast before that I was shocked and I hid my emotions until I got into my car and rang my partner and texted my sister back in Canada. And that was it. No professional asked me how I was feeling about having twins. And when I went back to my GP, she said she'd heard the news and that I would need to arrange for support once the babies arrived, as she made it quite clear that I probably would be needing some help looking after 2 babies. And of course, if you've already listened to my first episode, you know that at this stage, it was just me and my partner. And we didn't really have extra support to rely on. And when I went to my regular ultrasounds, there was very little mention of my emotional well being. Unless I raised it, no one was really asking. As well, what was quite surprising to me was there was very little mention of it during the antenatal classes that I attended. I was the only one in the room having multiples, and I already felt like I stood out. The majority of what was being taught in the antenatal classes was around what to expect with the birth and breastfeeding and so on, but a lot of it never really applied to my circumstance anyway. No one was speaking about the emotions that an expectant mother might feel before she gives birth and how that can affect her pregnancy. And I think that that is such a massive oversight. Not every woman is overjoyed at being pregnant, and many of the mothers of multiples that I meet say it took them some time to come on board, if you like, with the idea that they were going to be having more than one baby. But who do they share these feelings with? Maybe they tell their partner and friends or family. I know that I certainly tried. My partner was thankfully supportive, but many other people in my life made me feel like there was something wrong with me for feeling this way, or that I shouldn't be feeling this way. I was fortunate in that I had a background in mental health and I knew how to advocate for myself and speak up, and I knew how to ask for help. But sadly, many other women don't have that knowledge and are afraid to admit how they are really feeling. I am a firm believer in preventative medicine and care. And I think this applies to our mental health and emotional well-being. We need to be proactive in ensuring we are taking care of ourselves. And in pregnancy, this is more than making sure we're eating healthily and maintaining adequate sleep. I would argue that we need to be looking after our emotional health too. This may seem unimportant, particularly to those expectant mothers who are really excited about having multiples and are really looking forward to the birth and to life as a mom of multiples. But I would argue that even these women could be preparing themselves emotionally for the massive journey ahead. In fact, I was reminded of this from someone who's working through my coaching program. This person has young multiples and is in the thick of parenting. It's been hard, and they haven't really felt like they've had time to enjoy their babies. And I hear that a lot from moms of multiples. The demands on you, your time and energy, particularly in that first year. And if you have very little extended support as well, that can leave you feeling really depleted. And it can feel like really hard work that isn't all that fulfilling. The feedback I got from the person doing my coaching program was that the program has given them a lot of tools to manage their stress, which has been great. But it's also made them realize that they could have really benefited from this in pregnancy to help prepare them for what was to come. Because you never really know what it's going to be like taking care of more than one baby until it actually happens. So my wish for every expectant mother of multiples is that they get asked by professionals how they are coping emotionally right from the start. I'd love for sonographers to be trained in asking about expectant moms' emotions during the first ultrasound, where they find out that they're having multiples, and then to know where to refer these women if they have concerns and need additional support. And I'd love for there to be ongoing discussions with care providers throughout a woman's pregnancy about how she's feeling and coping. Not just how she's doing physically, but how is she mentally and emotionally feeling and coping. Let's ask how the woman's doing, and let's not forget about the partners, because they too may be experiencing a whole host of emotions, some negative. They might even be having negative thoughts about it. They might be worried and wondering how they're going to cope financially or even psychologically. So let's check in with them. We don't want to be having these discussions after the babies arrive when everyone is tired, stressed, and overwhelmed. We want to prepare ourselves as best we can. And I think part of that preparation is knowing how to take care of our emotional well-being. I love speaking about mental health and emotional well-being, And so I do go on about it in my coaching program for expectant and current moms of multiples, but that's because I know personally and professionally how important it is. So if you're listening to this and something has resonated with you, maybe you are an expectant mother and you're feeling scared, you might be excited, but you might also have some fears and worries. Let me reassure you that those feelings are completely valid. And there may be some of you who are not worried at all about the prospect of having multiples. You may feel completely confident that you're going to be fine, and I'm sure you will be. I hope that I've painted a picture, though, that a lot of the problems that we do sometimes see in the post-birth period can be prevented if we get the right support and professional guidance. And I'm not just talking about postnatal depression or anxiety. I'm talking about even those temporary emotions that may come up when you're exhausted and in the thick of parenting multiple babies, and it all feels so hard, and you wonder if it's ever going to get easier, and you really just want some time to yourself. It's in those moments that I'd love for you to be prepared to have the tools and strategies to cope with your emotions and thoughts so that you can enjoy the season of life you're in. Because one day those babies are going to leave home, and that may seem like an eternity away from the point where you might be right now. But wouldn't it be nice to simply enjoy and be content with wherever you are on your multiple birth parenting journey? That definitely sounds good to me. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope that it's giving you something to consider, and I'd love to hear your feedback. I know it was a short one today, so please do reach out to me and let me know if there are any particular topics you'd love for me to discuss or a particular guest that you'd love for me to invite on the show. I would love to hear from you. I want this to be of value to you, so reach out if you need anything, and I'll see you back here real soon. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you've heard, then please consider subscribing and leaving a review so that other expectant and current parents of multiples like yourself can find this podcast and the valuable information it contains. I would be so very grateful if you left a review and shared this with anyone you think could benefit from listening. If you have a particular topic you'd like me to cover on this podcast, feel free to reach out to me via my website, fiercekindmama.com, or connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Fierce Kind Mama of Multiples. New episodes are released every fortnight, so we'll see you back here real soon. Any advice and information in this podcast is general only and has been prepared without taking into account your particular circumstances and needs. For tailored, individualized advice, please consult with a qualified professional.